Clients in their 40s are often at a stage in their lives where they're beginning to take the financial future of themselves and their family more seriously. While age is not the only consideration when creating a client's financial plan, there are some common issues that should be discussed with clients to help them navigate their 40s effectively. These include paying off their mortgage versus putting more into superannuation, managing discretionary spending, debt consolidation, investment, life insurance and estate planning. In this session, we'll identify wealth-building strategies for clients in their 40s, discuss the relative merits of mortgage repayment versus superannuation contributions, and explain the significance of debt consolidation for clients in their 40s. Sophie Dillon presents this report.
A common goal for clients across all age brackets is to organise and optimise their financial affairs. Clients in their 40s will generally find that financial worries from their 20s and 30s have been trumped by much more complex, future-oriented worries such as children, homes and retirement. According to Financial Spectrum's Brenton, Tong, there is a lot that can happen in the 10 to 15 years before age 40 that can change a client's financial advice needs. However, it will also vary between individuals and their families.
For a lot of people, especially with families, they go from that newborn time when they're really trying to establish themselves as a family to really, nesting, figuring out what type of education they want for their kids. For those who are single or they don't have children, quite often their careers have hit a much higher point and they're feeling a lot more comfortable with themselves. And again, people will start to get a lot more sure and understanding what they need for the future.
Tutor Investor Show's Naomi Rosenthal points out that it is better to view clients in terms of stages of life rather than ages of life.
In my 30s, I was relatively single, I was career building, I was didn't have any kids, and I was focused on saving my money, doing a bit of travel, enjoying life. And then in my 40s now, I'm focused on family and paying down debt and maintaining a career. So yeah, age itself, it just really depends on people's situations. But I do suppose for a lot of people, their 30s really are around starting family, buying their first home, and things like that, starting to settle down. And then in their 40s, the kids are growing, their careers are sort of reaching a peak in terms of income.
Many clients in their 40s have established themselves to some degree, and their career is on a reasonably solid footing. Tong notes that the majority of clients in this age bracket have developed a much better understanding of their future needs and goals.
It is a really good time to be setting some long-term financial goals. A lot of people in their 40s have got debt, and reducing debt is a great strategy simply because there's no risk and the returns are actually quite reasonable. In your 40s, again, because you're a little bit closer to retirement, the idea of salary sacrificing is a lot more palatable for people in their 40s. And obviously the tax effects of putting money in pre-tax is really, really attractive for people at that stage. And because they've still got potentially 20 years to go for an investment time frame, you can still have a really good growth portfolio. So you're not just moving towards a more subtle, low return retirement fund, you can still actually treat that as a growth part of your portfolio.
Tong emphasises that when it comes to deciding whether to pay off the mortgage or contribute more to superannuation, it really boils down to the client's situation.
Mathematically, putting money in superannuation is more likely to win because the money goes in pre-tax and then the returns you make are only taxed at 15%. So it does work really, really well, but there's something to be said about the emotional impact of seeing your debt fall. So debt is something that most people don't feel incredibly comfortable with, especially on the home, and they're more likely to move forward with a situation where they're reducing their debt so they can own their home a little bit sooner. And the positives of doing that also is it does free up equity if they are inclined to look at investing into shares or property and building up their portfolio that way.
Discretionary spending is generally an aspect of the family budget that is difficult to control. Two strategies that work well in addressing this issue are transparency, which is a snapshot to show a client where their money is actually going, and building a financial structure that works for the client and their family. According to Rosenthal, the strategy of debt consolidation for those in their 40s can be highly beneficial depending on the client's situation.
So if you've got credit cards, personal loans, car loans, any of those kinds of debts, I think it's really important to look at consolidation of those debts, particularly in the current environment where interest rates are relatively low comparative to the rates on personal loans and credit cards and things like that. I think the other point to that is also that a key focus should be on the debt management and repaying those debts as quickly as possible over and above any saving or investing that they might be thinking about doing. Get rid of the debts first, then start saving.
Tong explains that when a client is consolidating their debts, it is vital to maintain at least the same level of repayments.
You're going to be paying less interest on the debt, but you're going to be paying off more principal. Otherwise, what will happen is that you could spend 20 years paying off a debt that would have been paid off over 5, and any money that you've saved in interest has gone back to the bank because you've been paying it off over a much longer period of time.
Investment is a very personal issue for clients and therefore involves a certain degree of emotion. Rosenthal explains that, among other things, the level of risk a client in their 40s is willing to take depends on their character, risk tolerance, and time to retirement.
And it also depends on what their goals are and the outcomes that they have for their retirement. And as an example, people in their 40s have got about 20 odd years before they're going to be accessing their superannuation and drawing down an income from that. So that's quite a long time horizon. You've got opportunity to really take risk in the market. So growth, high growth, those kind of risk profiles are bandied about for these kinds of people.
Tong asserts that recommending different types of life insurance for a family with young children is dependent on the client's wealth position.
Insurance, of course, is just to fill a gap between what they have and what they need if something were to happen. So depending on their financial situation, you probably will need some life, some TPD, trauma and income protection, so the full suite. But it's making sure that the clients understand that it's not insurance for life, it's really just to cover a gap. In addition to that, what you'll find also is that one of the biggest risks to a family is looking after children.
Rosenthal highlights that it is also essential that clients have a risk protection package in place and it is working well for them.
Ensuring that they're investing in appropriate ways, looking at their opportunities for superannuation, looking at debt management, making sure that they're covering off on managing debts well, thinking about that retirement picture and what it's going to look like, so what they need to do with superannuation as an example to get there.
Estate planning is an essential part of a financial plan at every age. Rosenthal notes that clients should be thinking about estate planning from a young age, particularly young adults in the workforce who have default insurance in their superannuation fund.
Who is that insurance going to go to if something happens to them, if they pass away in a car accident or something like that? So estate planning isn't just a consideration because I'm getting old. It should be thought about right from when you start your career or when you start working, particularly because of the superannuation environment and automatic insurances available under there. Having said that, for people in their 40s, if they haven't thought about it before, get stuck into it, at least get a will, at least get powers of attorney in place.
According to Tong, clients in their 40s, who are generally more established with slightly older children, have a better feel for what their family needs are going to be.
So I always talk to people about their estate plans and their wills as temporary documents. So what you needed when your children were born is going to be very, very different at 5, 10, 15, 20 and when they become adults. Their personalities and their needs are become a lot more obvious to you, and you can tailor what your estate plan is doing in order to make sure that you get the best possible outcome. Your assets are growing, your debt is reducing, your retirement balances are going up, hopefully, and there's more assets which need to be distributed. As the children get older and they get partners and things change for them, then again the complexities just continue to increase. So it's really, really important that you stay on top of it and you make sure that it's relevant for you and your family.